My friends fooled me into doing this. My husband then decided to ruin my life completely. I had never thought that one day I would find myself being one of my alpha husband's brutal revenge. You know, when you are too carefree, you end up doing things that would ruin your life and the second party's life. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was just having fun, but I guess the fun had me instead. A very small mistake took me back to the hellhole I thought I had left. I regret the day I made that mistake. I thought my husband was not going to find out. We were playing a game, you know. Just having fun with a couple of friends at a party, not knowing that what I had thought was a game was actually cheating. The worst part was the fact that I had to realize it the hard way. I was fooled by my friends and did things that I had thought were harmless and fun, only for it to ruin my life. I know someone who once had the same experience or had gone through the same situation that I was facing. How did you pick up the broken pieces and fix things regarding this situation? Let me tell you what happened. So I, F28, met this fine, handsome, and sexy man when I was visiting my aunt in Brooklyn for summer holidays. The first time I saw him, I developed a huge crush on him. Well, that time he had just turned 20 and I was 18. I had just started college in Baruch College in New York City. My aunt had always asked me to move in with her since she was staying alone. Her husband was working overseas. After I saw Chris, M30, I then reconsidered my aunt's offer. So I moved in with my aunt after I found out that Chris and his family were my aunt's neighbors. So I made it my mission to at least be friends with him since I didn't have any. One boring day, I'd been scared to ask for friendship with Chris, so I continued staying in the house. On that boring and sunny day, I decided to go and stay outside because the house was too boring for me and I needed some air. So as I was still outside, Chris arrived, was going with his family. My heart started beating so fast that I even thought it would stop. I then stared at him, or better say drooled on him for a long time. This man was fine. His body structure was to die for, not to mention his voice and smile. God, I wanted to die. Anyway, I think he saw that I was looking at him. Then he approached me after he had offloaded the things they had come with. Since that boring day, we became friends. He has been attending New York City College of Technology. He was a computer geek, which explained why he went to the College of Technology. Our friendship got stronger each day, as much as I had a huge crush on him, but I had closed my crush feeling to a small cage. At least we were friends and we were spending more time together. I was not used to Brooklyn, so he would take me to different places to visit different ice cream shops. There was this weekend when he came to my aunt's house and asked me to accompany him somewhere. I didn't ask much, so I went with him, only to find out that we were going to Central Park, which was 35 minutes drive away from Brooklyn. We were actually going to have a picnic there, and it was really fun. That was the day we had our first kiss, and he tasted so sweet and soft. From that day, he told me that he had developed feelings for me, so he proposed to me to be his girlfriend. He didn't have to ask twice. I unlocked my crush feelings and agreed to be his girlfriend. Our relationship was officialized after 6 months of keeping it a secret. It was the best year of my life. The more time we spent together, the more I got a chance to know him on a much deeper level. He was a sweet, loving, and loyal guy, but he was strict. He didn't take any shit from anyone, which made him an alpha boyfriend. We dated for 2 years, and it was a great ride. So his 22nd birthday was coming. I had invited all his friends since I was hosting a surprise birthday party for him. You can call it young love because we were very much in love with each other. So during the party, one of his friends had asked everyone to participate in a game called Spin the Bottle. My man told him that we were not going to join the game. I didn't understand why, because the game looked fun except for the fact that if the bottle points in your direction and another person's direction, you had to kiss them or drink the undiluted vodka. But it looked really fun, so I wanted to try it. The following year, he proposed to me, and obviously I said yes. I saw the love of my life in him. Even though he was a bit insecure. Maybe not a bit, but I loved him so much. I didn't see myself with anyone else other than him. He was my ride or die, my joy and happiness. I fell hard for him every day, not knowing that my small, stupid mistakes would cost me everything, including my love. Was it being naive or being forward? We got married after 6 months. Well, we didn't want to rush things, so we took our own sweet time to plan for our perfect wedding. I had moved out of my aunt's house after he proposed. We were living happily ever after. You know when you feel that she is the one, and you don't want anything to get in between you, which was how I felt. He was everything and more, not knowing that he would become my downfall someday. A year later, I fell pregnant. Our lives were great. I was so happy that I was going to be a mom. Not just being a mom, but the fact that I was going to have a child with the person I loved so much. 9 months later, I gave birth to a very adorable baby girl. She looked so much like my husband, and I loved her so much. She was and still is the best gift God had given me. Chris was so obsessed with his baby to a point that I was somehow jealous because the baby loved her daddy more than me. He would ask me to go out and rewind with friends since I was always in the house taking care of the baby. Chris didn't want me to work, but I talked him out of that thought and told him that at least I would do remote jobs. In that case, I would be able to be a stay-home mom while receiving an income. So one day I had received an invitation from one of my former college friends for a reunion party. I asked for permission to go from my husband, of course. He didn't have any problem. So one sunny Saturday, I attended the party, and it was a blast. It was fun. It was just a small and intimate party with just a few college friends. I really enjoyed myself, so one of the guys came up with the plan to play truth or dare. I thought it was just a game and we were all having fun, not knowing that I had committed adultery. I didn't know that kissing was considered cheating. Worst part, in that reunion party, everyone was happy and having fun. Videos and pictures of every moment were taken. Little did I know that those videos and pictures would ruin everything for me. A year later, I had asked my aunt to come over to my marital home with her husband because I had planned a surprise retirement and welcome back party for him, since he was no longer going to be working overseas but coming back home. I wanted to appreciate him while he was still alive. That man had done so much for me. He was the best uncle-father I had ever had. Both Uncle John and my aunt deserved to get their roses while still alive. During that year, Chris had started acting really strange. He was no longer spending time with me, but he would take our daughter only, and saying it was a daughter and daddy bonding session. That was actually a very lame excuse because even at home, things were no longer fun. It was like we were forcing things, even though our conversations were no longer fun and full of happiness. I had thought he was cheating because one day I had confronted him about his sudden behavior, and he looked at me like I had grown horns or I was crazy. So I decided to check his gadgets. Maybe he was using them to cheat, but I found nothing. I knew and felt that he was hiding something from me, but I couldn't get myself to think that whatever he was hiding was actually about me. One summer evening, I was preparing for my uncle's retirement welcome home party. I had told Chris that I would be hosting a party for my uncle, so I needed him to be there to help me. That day, he had promised me that he would be home early, but he didn't keep his promise. I mean, why was I surprised? Because he had been absent for a few days. He would go to work very early in the morning and come back late when our daughter would have even gone to sleep. When I asked him about it, he would say he was caught up at work. I couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that told me that something was off. I kept wondering why Chris was so distant and absent lately. Yes, I found out that he was not cheating, but there was something that had made him too busy for his wife because even our intimate moments were no longer the same. It was like he was doing it to satisfy himself more than the both of us. I wanted to find out what his problem was, but I just didn't know where to start. I had thought I knew Chris, but his behavior showed me that I didn't know him at all. So as the guests were arriving for my uncle's party, my uncle and his wife came, but I noticed that my uncle was a bit off as he tried pretending to be happy. I asked him on the side to speak with him, so I asked him what was going on. I had thought he was sick or something, but that was not the case. He had recently opened his coffee shop with the money he had gotten when it was his last day overseas. He told me that his business was crumbling down. I didn't understand how it was crumbling down because it was always busy. Then he told me that someone had hacked the business's account, and that person was busy stealing the money. My heart ached for my uncle, so I told myself that I would find the person who plays in my uncle's business account. It didn't even come to my mind that my husband would be responsible. Was I ignorant? I told my uncle that I would take the money I had inherited from my late mother and support him so he could recover the money he lost. It was going to be little, but it was going to make a difference. I couldn't let my uncle's business go down the drain like that. I had to do something, and I mean, he had been with me, playing a father role in my role. It was the least I would have done to help him. Chris came back looking pale and his eyes held a sinister glint. The suspicions that I had and tried to investigate about were proved. My husband had lipstick on his shirt collar. He was reeking of alcohol. It was not the Chris I knew. I was shuddered, you know. My world was shuddered at the fact that the feeling I had been trying to ignore had come to reality to hit me like a ton of bricks. Chris had been cheating on me, and my suspicions got proved. The bitterness of betrayal consumed me. I wanted to find out why he would do something so evil to me. I had thought we were happy, but I guess thoughts were not always right. Little did I know that the revenge I was seeking would backfire very badly. So I embarked on a relentless pursuit of the truth, unearthing a web of lies, infidelity, and corruption. With each revelation, my anger grew. I then discovered that Chris had not only been cheating on me, but had also orchestrated a plan to take advantage of my uncle's struggling business. I just couldn't believe it. It was really hard for me to believe that my loving husband would do something so evil to me and my uncle. My heart shattered, so I vowed to bring down both my cheating husband and the conniving individuals who had taken advantage of my family. Armed with my wit, resilience, and a newfound strength, I had set out a plan to expose the truth and divorce his ungrateful self. Did he do all that to make me suffer just because the only thing I did was to love him, or he married me or dated me just because he knew and saw that I had a crush on him? A lot of questions were running through my mind, and I couldn't find any answers for them. I even decided to be a stay-home mom just because I was respecting him since he wanted me to be a housewife. But we had spoken about that and came to an agreement that I would do only remote jobs, and he decided to do such an evil act on me. What did I do wrong to him? The way I was shuddered and disappointed led to not being a fully present mother to our daughter. He was still living in our marital home, and he never forgot to spend his time with his daughter, which was what I appreciated because I was not in my right state of mind to take care of the baby. He didn't know that I knew his plans and his infidelity, and I had to act accordingly, so I would confront him when I had got tangible evidence. A month later, we had been living like roommates in our house. Even our daughter had caught the thick tension that was in our home. My conscience kept telling me that my husband would never cheat on me. He loved me and our family so much for him to just destroy it like that if there was nothing going on. I suspected that maybe he was going through something. But would a person who was going through something cheat on you and plan to destroy your uncle's business? Everything was really confusing. So I decided to seek revenge on my uncle's behalf and try to bring back his business and the money he had lost. I should have known that Chris would use his immature computer geeks, he calls friends, to do his dirty business. What did I think exactly when it didn't come to me that the only person who would be able to pull that stunt? Another thing that had confused me was, why would my husband want to destroy my uncle? Did they have any beef that I didn't know about? My relentless pursuit of justice culminated in a confrontation that would change everything. Facing my husband, Chris, and the people responsible for my family's downfall. So I invited his friends for lunch at our home, of course, since Chris was also not working. It was a great time to unleash a storm of truth and retribution that left them all stunned. I knew they would not have expected me to know everything about their dark operation that was busy pulling my uncle's business account money. Chris was livid after I had dropped a bombshell on him and his friends and threatened to expose their operation if they didn't return my uncle's money that they had been taking. Later that evening, he came to our room and told me that we had to talk. I didn't allow him to, so I just looked at him with a go-ahead look. I didn't want to waste my voice talking to him, so he had to do the talking. I know I was not perfect also. I had not been faithful to my marriage. Not that I was cheating. I mean, sleeping with another man outside your marriage is considered cheating, right? Well, I didn't cheat. At least I thought I didn't, but I had a guy friend from college. Chris knew about our friendship even though he was not approving of it, but I had assured him that we were just friends. Nothing more. So me and this guy would be free with each other to a point that we somehow kissed, but that was it. Nothing else happened. Just kissing. So as he was talking and apologizing about what he had done to my uncle and promised to return every cent he had taken from his account, my heart was at ease. That night we had talked things through and ended up enjoying our intimacy. I had missed him a lot. I had missed our family's happy moments. I thought that we were past what had happened, even though I also had my own secrets, but they were not dark like his. Few months passed and our relationship was going stronger again. We were happy. Well, I thought we were not, knowing that the bastard had planned to destroy me. He once asked me if I had considered kissing another person outside our marriage. Cheating. My opinion was that I didn't consider kissing as cheating because it didn't go with feelings. Just a little fun here and there, but being intimate with another person outside our marriage would be considered cheating. Was I wrong? The answer he gave me was, which confused me because I had thought we were just having a conversation between married people. One cold summer weekend, I received a call from an unknown number. I was just chilling with my husband and our baby girl. The call left me devastated and lost. I didn't know what to do. I was told that my uncle and aunt were involved in a tragic car accident and none of them made it out alive. My world came crumbling down. I had lost the only people I had called family. They took me in and made me their child, since they had struggled to have children. So after the passing of my mother, they took it upon themselves to take charge of my well-being. I was really sad, so I went to the police department to ask further regarding their accident because I knew that my uncle was a very vigilant driver, so he would never be careless on the road, and that wouldn't have caused the accident. I was told that his car tires were tampered with. He didn't notice them, and it led to a car losing control, and there was a truck that came on the side coming in full speed and collided with my uncle's car on my aunt's side. They showed me pictures and the car was beyond recognition. Even a pro driver would not have survived that accident. It was too tragic and heartbreaking. Weeks later, after we had buried my aunt and uncle, their lawyer told me that they had left everything under me and my daughter's name since they never had any children or extended family members. I couldn't believe that they would actually do something so generous to me. I grieved for my uncle and aunt the wrong way. I had pushed away my husband, neglected my duties as a mother and a wife. I found solace in alcohol. I felt alone, I felt like an orphan, so I drank. Alcohol made me escape the real world for a couple of hours, so I would ask my male friend to accompany me to whatever place that had fun. I would be having so much fun to a point that I even lost control. My male friend would kiss me here and there during our drinking spree, and I would accept his kisses. I wanted to numb the pain that I was feeling in my heart. My husband was so patient with me, he even tried to get me help, but I didn't accept it. I didn't want any shrink to ask me to open up about my problems. I wanted my aunt and uncle. My husband was there and patient throughout my grieving process. A couple of months passed. I decided that I had to pick myself up and remember that I had a family that needed me. I almost lost myself because of grief. I had lost connection with my daughter. My husband was on the verge of giving up on me if I had continued with the way I was behaving. It is said that even a patient's heart loses its patience when there is no progress in what it holds. Little did I know that during the whole grief moment or term, my husband was actually aware of everything I was doing. I know that he was doing it to ensure my safety and well-being, but he should have talked me through everything or taken me to the rehabilitation center by force. I was not myself, and he used that to his own satisfaction and cruelty. So after I had completely healed, I sold my aunt's house. I had found an anonymous buyer who was willing to deposit the full amount of the house. I was happy because it was not really easy to sell a house in Brooklyn. I transferred the house money to my daughter's accounts for future purposes. Chris came with the idea that we should buy a new house. Well, a bigger one than the one we had. So I agreed and moved to another place outside New York. A couple of months later, I found out that I was pregnant, which was the happiest moment of my life because it meant that my family was growing. My husband and daughter were with me. On the other hand, I was expecting another bundle of joy, an additional member of my small family. During that pregnancy, Chris went back to his strange behavior. It was like he was not happy about my pregnancy and the fact that we were expecting an additional member into our small circle, which was what we had always wanted. I was sure that the baby I was carrying was his child, because I had never slept with my male friend. One fateful night, he came back home looking angry. I asked what the matter was, and he just told me that it was work-related, so I didn't ask anything further because I didn't want to stress my baby, and if it was something work-related, he would find a way to sort it out. Little did I know that the work-related matter was actually me. That night, he didn't even spend his night with me. He slept in our daughter's bedroom, which raised an eyebrow. Why would he sleep in our daughter's room if whatever had made him angry was work-related because he had never done that before? The behavior kept getting worse, and that time he would sometimes come back home intoxicated and start speaking a lot of things that didn't make sense. He would start picking fights with me, saying that he would destroy my life because after all the time we had been married, I made him a fool. His accusations really confused me because I never thought my own husband would accuse me of such things. To me, it came as like he didn't trust me or he believed that I had cheated, but I never did. Or did I? A few days later, he came back home and asked to speak to me. My heart jumped out of joy thinking that he had come back to his senses, and he was willing to play his husband and a father role to our children. As we were speaking, he took out an envelope and asked me to open it. I opened it without any fear or suspicion. I thought it was something else. I didn't know why I had thought that it was something else that I didn't know of. I took out the papers that were in an envelope. He told me that he was thinking that we should expand my uncle's business since we had left Brooklyn, so it was time we open another one around where we were staying, and there was someone who was willing to join the business chain. I was happy that Chris was willing to do better by my uncle's business and expand it, so I agreed, and he asked me to sign the papers for partnership. Stupid me, I signed the papers without reading them just because I trusted my husband and he thought he would never do wrong by me. I was his wife and the mother of his children, for goodness sake. 2 weeks later, it was time that we had to open another coffee shop near where we were staying. But my husband had gone AWOL. I didn't understand his sudden disappearance because we had agreed on the date to launch the coffee shop. He had left for a week with our daughter, saying that they were going to his parents' house in Brooklyn, and he was going to go for a day and come back, but I guess a day became a week. I tried calling him, but his phone was not going through. I had tried everything to reach him, but I couldn't. I got really worried, and the fear of losing them creeped on me. I started panicking because even his parents confirmed that our daughter was with them, but Chris was not. I didn't want to lose Chris, and I was not ready to. The thought of him leaving me like my aunt and uncle came, and it was not a really pleasing feeling because I was stressed, which affected my unborn child. A month later, I received a call from our lawyer asking me to meet up with her. I agreed, thinking that maybe he had news regarding my husband, only to find out that he was going to serve me with divorce papers. I was shocked because I didn't understand the meaning of everything. I was going through stress that my husband had not been home for the whole month, and suddenly I was served with divorce papers. I didn't want to lose my husband for something I didn't know about. I thought he had gone back to his cheating ways, and I was not willing to lose him to another woman. I was willing to fight for my husband and our family. So I decided to find another lawyer who would represent me during the divorce process. But bad things kept happening to me. My cards got blocked. Even my daughter's account got blocked. I couldn't receive or transfer payments. I didn't know what was going on, so I went to the bank to try and fix my account's issues, which failed dismally. I couldn't even pay for the lawyer I had found, meaning he would not be able to represent me. I was furious. I missed my aunt so much, because she would have known what to do or say to me to make me feel better. I was pressured to the point that I got abdominal pains one night, mind you. I was alone in the house, so I called 911 for assistance. Unfortunately, when I got to the hospital, I had already lost the baby. My heart was broken. I even wished death upon myself. I had thought my baby was a fighter, but I guess that time he or she couldn't fight any longer. I needed my husband, the same husband who had filed for a divorce for me. My mind was all over the place. My life was becoming a mess each and every day. I spent the whole week in hospital. My mind and heart was shuttered. A day before I got discharged from the hospital, my husband's lawyer came to see him. He left another envelope that I didn't even bother opening, but I took it home with me the next day. So when I had settled well at home, I remembered the envelope and opened it. The things the envelope contained left me in awe. My heart stopped for a moment. In the envelope, there were pictures of me and my male friend kissing each other. It looked like we were dating. I couldn't believe how my husband had got the pictures. I didn't understand why he would send his lawyer to deliver the pictures to me, and I saw nothing wrong in what I did. In my world or mind, kissing was not and should not be considered as cheating. No feelings were attached. It was fun, nothing else. So after the pictures were delivered, the lawyer called me again, saying the divorce process had to come to a final decision, and requested to see me along with my husband on a certain date. I honored his request and went to meet up with him and my husband. The only thing that made me agree to the meeting was because I had a lot of questions to ask my husband. One fateful day, The day of the meeting came, and my husband was really divorcing me. And his reasons for the divorce were that he had lost trust in me, and I had not been faithful to our marriage. The fact that I had found solace in another man's arms and left him in our house to take care of our daughter. I thought he understood that I was going through grief, and I was not myself. I tried defending myself in the pictures case, and the lawyer told me exchanging saliva or kissing another person outside my marriage is considered cheating, even if I had thought it was an innocent friendship kiss. But the fact that I had spent time and kissed another person in the name of friendship is cheating. I didn't know that and never thought of it as cheating because me and the guy were only friends. I didn't take him as another thing and never thought of him that way. I loved my husband so much, but I guess the only thing I never did was respect my wedding vows and my husband. I didn't know, okay, one moment I was happy, the next I was grieving and found comfort in alcohol. That alcohol led me to do something that I had thought I was doing just for fun. I guess nothing stays in the dark. I felt so ashamed. Doing things in the name of fun sometimes leads us to our downfall. So I ended up signing the papers, meaning I was actually letting go of my husband, our love, our vows, and our family. I asked the lawyer what I was benefiting from the divorce, and he told me that I would be getting nothing rather than the house I was living in. So I asked my husband to unfreeze my accounts, and he told me that my accounts were fine. It was just that they didn't have any money. I knew he was crazy, but I had never thought it was to that extent. How could he do something so evil to the mother of his child? As I had thought that was all. He then dropped a very large and a killer bombshell to me, saying that he was taking full custody of our daughter and that I was not fit enough to be a mother, so he was taking full responsibility to our daughter. To my luck, I had my aunt and uncle's offshore accounts cards with me. They had a little money in them. It was enough to push me until I would be able to find my feet, so I took that money and hired a private investigator to run an investigation on my ex-husband. When he came back with the results, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that my husband was responsible for my downfall. It showed that he was the one who owned my family home, the one my aunt and uncle lived in. He also tricked me to sign the papers that he said were partnership papers, but I was actually signing all my rights to him, meaning he was the full owner of my uncle's businesses. Those were replaceable things because during the investigation finding, it also stated that my husband was responsible for my aunt and uncle's accident. I felt my knees getting weak each and every moment when I read the findings. I had never thought he was that evil. I had lost the only people who were my family, as if that was not enough. He took my daughter away from me. I should have left him the first time I found out that he was responsible for my uncle's business to lose money. My ex-husband was evil and psychopathic. The signs were there, but I didn't pay any attention to them. I was so much in love and thought I had found my soulmate, but I found my worst nightmare and downfall. I couldn't believe that he did all that just because of a lousy kiss. It wasn't like I was dating the guy, but he destroyed my life. All in the name of revenge for a kiss. A few months later, I had to try and fix my life bit by bit. Chris did a number on me, so it wasn't easy having to start afresh everything. Fortunately, I found a job as a waitress in one of the restaurants nearby. It was not easy, but I had to try and pick up life and better myself. I had no one but myself, so it was time to focus on me and do me. And the good thing was that Chris's parents had allowed me to see my daughter and spend time with her. I prayed every day for karma to visit Chris one day. Fortunately, it did. All his operations came out and he was arrested. I vowed to myself to never fall in love again or have a crush on someone. I have learned my lesson. Do you think I handled the whole situation better, or I was a coward and naive to allow Chris to destroy my life like that? Please advise me. Sometimes we find ourselves falling in love and being committed to people who do not have a mutual feeling towards us. No matter how hard you tried to show them the true meaning of love, but they preferred looking for it outside their marriage, breaking the vows they had made in front of their families, friends, and God himself. It gets even worse when they get into marriage knowing very well that they were not ready for the commitments. Some break their vows just because they were seeking for fun outside their marriage. What do you call that? I had thought I had chosen well. I thought I had found the one, only to find out that I had been a fool for the longest time. I was deceived by the person that I had given myself to. She was not ready for the commitment like I was. She should have said something, She should have told me that she was not ready not to lead me on. These are the things that cause us depression as men. Does anyone know the feeling or a glimpse of what I was going through? If there is, how did you deal with it? I would always ask myself where I had gone wrong, what it that I was not doing, was I not satisfying her enough? I was failing to get answers no matter how hard I had tried to come up with answers. Maybe she saw me as less of a man. That was the only relevant answer I had managed to come up with. Though it didn't make sense, it was the most relevant one that I had come with. Let me tell you about what actually happened. I, M40, am naturally a quiet and reserved guy. I respected my peace, which was why you wouldn't find or see me arguing most of the time. I try by all means to keep and maintain the peace around the environment I am in. So my ex-wife and I met a while back when I was working at the mines called Bowlby Mine in the United Kingdom. I would go home to Cleveland once every 6 months, so the time I met her, I was coming from work. It had been a long time since I'd been home. So I was in town, in one of the retail stores in my hometown, doing some grocery for my family. That time I had been gone for the whole year. I couldn't get a chance to go back home because I was the miner's supervisor, so I had to oversee everything that was happening at work and to make sure that the workers did their jobs perfectly. So I saw this beautiful lady. She was in the store also going with her blind grandmother. As she was busy picking things, the grandmother went to another grocery aisle while she was still looking at products to buy. When she turned, she didn't see her grandmother, which made her panic. So I approached her and told her that her grandmother had gone to another aisle. She rushed there, leaving the shopping cart alone. I then took it upon myself to follow her. I found her arguing with her grandmother. I then disturbed them to give her the shopping cart she had left when she was looking for her grandmother. She appreciated the kind gesture. That time, I had just finalized my divorce with my ex-wife. It was a very hard time for me because I was out there in the mines working for us and our family, but she couldn't wait for me to come back. She moved on, and the worst part was that I found out that she was dating my neighbor. That was the worst betrayal I had ever experienced in my life. Fast forward, I bumped into this beautiful lady again as I was taking a walk around my hometown. We started talking. From that moment, we just clicked. Then we exchanged numbers and started getting along. She would text me whenever she needed help with her grandmother, only when I was around. We communicated a lot over the phone when I went back to work. Our communications were great, no lies. She made me smile and always managed to brighten up my day when I had a rough one at work. I fell for her the day we started communicating. She was able to soften my heart, and she made me feel complete. I worked hard to get my early retirement. That time I was 32, and I had wished to retire or find another job not far from my hometown, then get married at 35. I had already pictured myself spending my whole life with her, starting our own family. But I guess some wishes and dreams are not always supposed to be fulfilled. Did I really count chickens before they hatched? A year later, I went back home. Things were really hard for me because I had just lost my mother, and I was not able to be present on her send-off. It was really hard working in the mines because when you are inside the mine shaft, you cannot connect and communicate with people who are outside. We were in the shaft for about a week. It was hectic. So when I managed to get outside, I had found so many missed calls and messages from Catherine, my wife, F38, and my family. The first thing I thought of when I saw all the messages and missed calls, I decided to call Catherine first because I still wanted her to be my girlfriend. Not just a friend, but I wanted more, so I had to try by all means to make sure that I get here, and I gave her enough attention. After I had spoken to Catherine, I then called back my family to check up on them, and I was told that my mother was sick. That broke my heart because there was nothing I could have done. The only thing I managed to do was to send money and ask them to take my mother to a better doctor. But I guess even the better doctor was not able to treat and heal her. 2 weeks later, I was told that my mother didn't make it. The worst part was that she died asking for me. My heart was shuttered. After I heard about my mother's passing, I vowed to myself to resign from work that year and go back home because I had realized that life was too short, so I had to spend it with the people that I love and are close to my heart. I didn't want to lose Catherine before I had even got her. Then a year later, I stepped down as a supervisor and resigned from the mine. I had saved enough money to at least start a small business that would grow over time. I went back home and started communicating more with Kathy. We grew much closer, and the connection was there. We started spending more time together. The money that I had saved, I started a car wash and fast food business. Kathy helped me on the fast food part because she had a lot of experience in cooking, and she was really business-minded. My family was very much supportive, even though my older sister didn't like the idea that I had taken Catherine to work with me while they were not doing anything. I didn't understand the jealousy because my sister was working at a nearby gadget shop as a manager. Everyone was doing something. My brother was always in the streets, so I couldn't use or take him to work for me and Kathy. On another hand, she was hustling to take care of her blind grandmother. She was doing nothing but selling her body in exchange for money. I was shocked when she first told me that, but I understood the pressure she was feeling because she was living with her grandmother who was blind and her sister's disabled teenager. Her story is really sad, which was what made me choose her to work with me so she can make a decent living. I couldn't allow her to continue selling her body because I had seen a wife and my lifetime partner in her. Well, Kathy and I were working very well together. Customers were coming. I was happy with the progress of my business. I had hired a few more girls and guys around the neighborhood to work for me. People were coming in numbers. Kathy and I got closer each day. Our friendship went on for a year until I couldn't hold myself anymore. I expressed my feelings to her. I was so nervous when I did that because I didn't know how she would receive it, but I had to man up and put all my feelings to the table so that she would see how serious I was about her. She was shocked about my confession, but there was no turning back. I had already laid my feelings on the table for her. She got mute for a moment and asked to think through about my sudden confession. I didn't know what was there to think about because if she had felt the same way as me, she would have given me the answer the same day. I think that was really childish of her. So I allowed her to take her time to think. That time she didn't come to work for 3 days. She was also not answering my calls and texts. I got worried and thought something had happened to her. So on the 4th day, she came to work and apologized for her behavior. I didn't care about her apologies, but I wanted to know her decision on the confession that I had made. I was shaking on my boots thinking she would reject me. I had never been in any relationship or tried to be in a relationship after my ex-wife, so it was somehow strange to me having to confess my feelings to a woman. For most of my adult life, I was in the mines working for my family, but I guess my ex didn't appreciate the hard work I was doing, so she got tired of waiting for me to come back home after 6 months or a year. I understood her impatience because I would come home for a month or two, then go back to the mines. It was draining her. So since I was back, I wanted to start my life afresh with Kathy. I don't know why I saw my future with her. I wanted her to feel important as a woman, not a sex toy that would be sold in the streets to make easy money. So she told me that she had thought through what I had confessed to her, and that she had fears that I would someday leave her. Plus, she was ashamed of her background. She thought she was not my type of woman I would want to be with. That confused me because if I would do all that she had said, I wouldn't have bothered expressing my feelings to her. To me, I saw a wife, a mother of my children, my life partner, She was my happiness. Yes, I had been in a relationship before, but it was not the same. I wanted her to feel some love and feel like a woman, not a doormat. She had a low self-esteem issue, which I was willing to also help her with so she could be herself and be free. But I guess you can take someone out of the street, but you can never take the street out of them, right? I had to assure her that her past meant nothing. All that mattered was that she was willing to change for her family and do better. Since then, the relationship was formed, though she had self-doubts, but we worked hard to ensure that she accepted herself as she was. She kept reminding me that she was not perfect, which was what would make us argue at times because I wanted her to be her better self. But she kept going back to where she was. I don't know what was done to her by the clients she was selling to, but whatever it was had really disturbed her. So it was not easy for her to trust any man, I think. Anyway, our relationship had ups and downs, just like all relationships. The only thing we would argue about was her low self-esteem and communication. Kathy was not an open person. She was secretive, so it somehow got into our relationship, but we managed to fix all that over time. 5 months later, she was slowly healing from whatever trauma she had gone through, though she was not opening up as I had wanted her to, but she was getting there, and our communication improved. I was happy about that because she was slowly becoming the person I had wanted her to be. I then discovered that she was a person who loved going out. She was adventurous, and she loved cooking. Her cooking skills were on another level. My fast food business was proof of that because she was the one in charge of cooking. I knew there and then that she was the wife material. She had all the qualities I wanted and needed in a woman, so I was sure that I had chosen well, and she would never change on me. You know when you are sure that someone would never change on you and you get too comfortable in a relationship, to a point that you won't even believe it when things go south. So we dated for a year and a half, then I proposed to her on her birthday. My sister knew something deep about Kathy, but she wouldn't tell me, because I had seen how she reacted when I announced my engagement with Catherine. She was somehow angry and kind of disappointed in me. Her words were, "After your divorce with Anna and going back to the mines, I had thought you would come back a better person and choose, well, not the second season of what you married the last time." I didn't understand any of the things she had said because I had thought Anna got tired of waiting and found another man who would give her enough time and attention that I had failed to do. How was my situation with Anna connected to my engagement with Kathy? I think my sister was kind of bitter and jealous because she was going through a breakup with the father of her children. There was a lot that my sister was hiding from me, but I knew that whatever happened in the dark would always find its way to come out to light. Kathy and I got married after 6 months. I wanted to marry a month after I had proposed to her, but she wanted to first look for her father's family members so they would be present in the wedding. I didn't understand why she was so interested in finding her father's family members, because if they had wanted to be present in her life, they would have, and it wouldn't be hard for them to attend the wedding. But what woman wants, she should get to keep her happy. I helped her look for her father's family, and to my surprise, they were not far from our hometown. They just didn't want to be present in her life, because even her father was alive and healthy. I was not surprised when the family she had spent the whole 6 months looking for did not come to the wedding. The wedding continued, though, and we had the best moment of our lives. I was happy that I had gotten a chance to spend my life with the woman my heart had chosen. I wished my mother was present to witness my happy ending. Not knowing that my happy ending would actually end sooner than I had expected, and my heart had chosen the worst breaker of it. Sometimes I don't understand why our hearts choose the wrong people to guide them, because I had given my heart to Catherine and she used it and stomped on it like a useless piece of paper. We got married when she was 25 and I was 27. I knew that that was the perfect age to get married to the love of your life. I mean, with Anna, I was still young, and I was still trying to find my feet after I was fresh out of college. So it was understandable that would do something like what she did. A couple of months into our marriage, I had been trying to get Kathy pregnant. We were not using any protection because as much as she was a body seller, she made sure to protect herself. Her words, not mine. And we had gone to the health department to check if we were both okay, and everything came back negative. That was when we started going raw. So I kept trying to make her fall pregnant, but nothing was happening, which made me suspicious, because if everything was fine with her, she would have gotten pregnant the time we tried for a baby. My mind kept telling me that she was hiding something. I didn't know what, but whatever it was sinister. But I trusted that she would never make me a fool, at least not like that. When I asked her why she was not falling pregnant, because it had been months since we had started trying, she would always avoid the question and change the topic. The matter got worse when I had suggested that we went to the doctor to check efficiently if she was really fine, but she just busted and wanted to bite my head off. I then knew that something was smelling fish in her actions, but I couldn't tell her that. So I backed off, as much as I wanted a child to grow my family name and my legacy. But it was her body after all, and I had to respect her and her decisions. That time we were still living at home with my family. We decided to take her late sister's child and her grandmother to live with us because they wouldn't be able to take care of themselves or even live alone. Well, more like I came up with that idea. She was a bit skeptical at first, but she eventually agreed after she had thought about her family's well-being, and I needed my wife next to me at all times. The business was going pretty well, and Kathy was still doing great in her kitchen department. The fast food business was growing because we had opened another spot outside our hometown. I was so proud of the woman she had become. I fell in love with her every single day. She kept me sane, and her communication progress was fully accomplished. Well, not fully, but she was getting there. One summer afternoon, we had decided to go out as a family. Well, more like taking Grandma and the niece out for some fresh air. I wanted my sister and brother to tag along also, but my sister's bitterness was really on another level, and she didn't even try to hide it. And my brother was always on the streets as usual. I wished my family was still intact, just like how it was when my mother was still alive. Yes, my brother was always on streets, but he was always available when it was time to spend with the family. My own family had fallen apart, and it really hurt me, because I needed them. So I went out with my wife's family. We had a lot of fun. She was happy, and so was her niece and grandmother. That was all I had wanted to see on her face. Happiness and freedom. Her smile was my priority. And another thing, she had started attending college because she wanted to get a qualification in cooking, so she had sold their old house to pay for her fees. I supported her in her dreams. She made me proud to be her man and to call her my wife. I just don't know what went wrong, but something went wrong and ruined everything. She was doing a very good job in maintaining our family plus school and fast food business, as much as we had hired 2 people that would be hands-on in the kitchen department when she was at school, but she made sure that whenever she got time, she was taking charges. She loved to be in charge, and she was dedicated to everything she did. A couple of months later, her grandmother passed on in her sleep. None of us knew what had happened that had led to her passing. My wife was devastated. She was really hurt. She had shut me out to a point that she eventually went back to the Kathy She distanced herself even from her niece, so I had to take charge and take care of everything, including her niece and business. She grieved the wrong way, but I made sure to be there for her during the whole grieving period she was going through. I couldn't get through to her. It was like she had a demon or she was possessed, and that possession led her to making bad decisions. I was only relieved that she didn't lose herself to a point that she went back to selling her body. We had money, so she didn't need to do that. Her grandmother's passing really hurt her and her niece because the niece also started getting sick. Mind you, Kathy was wherever the place that she was in, so I had to take responsibility for her niece's health and make sure she got better treatment. It was really hard on me also because the niece couldn't bathe herself since she was disabled, so I had to do that. It was uncomfortable, I tell you, but I had to do what the best husband had to do. The time went by and I saw that Kathy was not getting over the grief period, so one day when she came back home intoxicated to a point that she couldn't even remember her name. So I called the rehabilitation facility that was around our hometown and admitted her to the facility. I had to do something right. I missed my wife. I was also not able to cope with all the responsibilities I had. By God's grace, I had managed to fix things with my sister, even though she was still not telling what her problem was with Catherine. But I was glad that I had gotten my sister back. She helped me a lot, especially with her niece. She was truly helpful. And my brother was slowly becoming available at home, which was another thing I was happy about. 6 months later, Catherine got discharged from the facility. I was happy about the improvement she had made. She became the person I fell in love with the day I saw her in the grocery store. She was doing way better than I had imagined. Even though her niece was happy to see her, my heart was full and complete. I had everything. My family, my wife, everything was just great, Little did I know that a cheater never changes its spots, right? I was so much in love and comfortable to even think of what would happen in the future. So at the car wash, I had hired an old friend of mine that I had grown up with to manage it during the time when I was home taking care of the niece. He was doing a very good job and the business was booming, the money was coming in, and I had nothing to worry about. A year later, or let me say 9 months later, I bought a small house not far from home because my wife was complaining about her peace and privacy. Her and my sister were not getting along, and it affected me somehow because I wanted my sister to get along with my wife, but on my side, that was not the case. It was like they were cat and dog. They were always arguing. So I decided to investigate the issue my sister had with my wife. My conscience kept telling me that whatever it was really dark and deep. I couldn't shake off the feeling that either my wife or sister once did something to someone else. I knew that my sister would never just hate someone without a valid reason, and their issue was not solvable. There was really no solution to it. So my solution was to find the root of the problem. During my investigation and findings, I found out that my wife was actually in a paid relationship, or must I say she had a transactional regular client, which kept buying whatever service she was offering. And that person turned out to be my sister's baby daddy. Unfortunately, my sister found out, and she was livid because whatever that it was had happened when my sister was pregnant. I remember very well that my sister was always in and out of hospital because of pregnancy complications due to the stress she was caused by her then boyfriend. I couldn't believe it, you know. I had blamed my sister for being bitter and thought she was jealous of my relationship because hers didn't work out, not knowing that my wife was actually the cause of all this. Well, not really my wife because she didn't ask the boyfriend to come for her service, but he did it willingly. So both of them were victims in the situation. Time went on. My sister started warning me about Kathy, saying that she had heard that Catherine was two-timing me. I was like, here we go again. I didn't know what the problem was with my sister, really. Yes, my wife had done wrong by her, but she had no reason to hate her, because she didn't know that the client that had approached her was actually my crazy sister's unfaithful and selfish baby daddy. Yeah. It had been a couple of months since we had moved out from home. My sister was not happy about that as usual. She had thought I was choosing my wife over her after what my wife had done to her. But that was not the case. I had chosen peace and I was fed up hearing them barking at each other every day. Their arguments made me do something I had never thought I would have done to my sister. I slapped her and defended my wife because she was starting to be a nuisance, not knowing that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. So one day I received a call from my sister asking me to come home. She wanted to discuss something with me. So I drove home and found my sister along with one of the guys that were working at my car wash. I was confused about what was going on. In my mind, I had thought they were going to tell me that they were dating maybe. My sister then started telling me that she wanted to show me something, so I gave her a go-ahead. The guy took out his phone and told me to scroll on the pictures he was showing me. I was still confused about why they would call me to show me the pictures of my wife in a car wash. As I continued scrolling, one picture caught my attention. It was my wife looking cozy with the car wash manager. They were sitting too close to each other. Even a child would have seen that something was going on between the two. So I decided to take this guy with me because I was going to the car wash, since I was already around the neighborhood. When I got there, some of my trusted workers were not there, so I asked the guy where others were, and he told me that the manager had fired them. I was surprised and angry that he had fired people I trusted, so I went straight to the manager's office. But before I got in, I overheard the manager and my wife talking. My wife was sitting on his lap. The manager kept nodding. I then heard my wife telling the manager that she wanted him and asked him to allow her to enjoy the night together. My mouth got dry in an instant. As I was still eavesdropping, I heard the manager telling her that I was his childhood friend, so it was wrong of him to even agree to betray me. I didn't know why he was saying all that while he was busy chowing my wife. I trusted him. I trusted them, but both of them screwed me over. So I just decided to go back home without even asking the manager about the workers' issue. I was furious. I wanted to explode so bad because both of them had fooled me. Not to mention that bitch I had called a wife. She had gone against her vows of being faithful and betrayed me. Not with a random person, but with the person I had considered a friend. Luckily, I had left the niece with my sister back at home. I couldn't allow her to see me angry. I was frustrated. I couldn't believe that I had been a fool the whole time. I wanted to find out when their affair had started, so I waited for my wife to come back home so I could go through her phone. Maybe I would find something tangible. A few hours later, she came back looking happy. I pretended that I was fine, as much as it was hard to pretend, but I had to, so that I would be able to gather evidence that she was really cheating. If I had asked her straight away, she would have denied it even though I had seen and heard them. That day, she didn't even kiss or hug me like she would do when she came from wherever she would be. That day, she went straight to the bathroom to take a shower, saying she was tired and she wanted to wash off the sweat she had. So when she was in the shower, I got a chance to take her phone. Luckily, I knew her passcodes, so it was not a struggle to unlock it. What I found out when I paged her phone almost took me to an early grave. I couldn't believe it. The conversations they were having were mostly about me. She was degrading my capabilities as her man. She even told the guy that she was regretting marrying me because I was a boring guy and not sexually satisfying her. I was hurt beyond measure because I had thought everything was going well and our intimate moments were good. She never told me anything about her not being satisfied. As I continued going through their conversations, I found out that they once had a transactional relationship before. Surely that was when she was still selling her body. So she sold herself to the person I had been calling a friend and a brother for all the days of my life. Who are women, huh? Why are they so evil and venomous? These female species would really murder you and bury your body outside the yard, then live their lives like they had done nothing. But I couldn't allow her to just fool me like that and think I would not stay back and eat popcorn with her. The fact that they were even sharing their private pictures reeked me to the core. I hate people who treat other people as fools and think they could get away with everything. I forwarded the conversations and the pictures to my emails. I couldn't risk forwarding them to my phone because she would sometimes use it. Weeks later, I got tired of pretending, so I called our family lawyer and asked her to draft me divorce papers. Luckily, we were not married into any joint commune, so she would get anything that I had worked hard for. The only person who I thought about was the niece because she was going to be in the middle of everything. But I couldn't let them go free after they had made me a fool. So I had created a fake email account the day before. I went to the car wash to check how things were. When I got there, I fired the manager and asked him to check his emails. The look he had on his face was priceless. I then cut off our friendship since he had broken the bro code. I told him to forward them to the wife. When I got home, I found Catherine looking so livid. It was like she had seen a ghost or something. I greeted her and she started apologizing about everything and promised to change. Well, not all promises are meant to be kept because even when we started dating, she promised to be a better person than she was. Our whole relationship, she had been making promises after promises. Didn't she get tired? Because I got tired. A few days later, she was served with divorce papers. Then I asked her to sign them in peace. I was not going to be greedy. She was my wife, and she had a disabled niece, so I opted to leave her the house that we were staying in since she had sold her grandmother's house to pay for her studies. It was the least I could have done. I was not thinking of her well-being, but her niece's. She started throwing shades at me on social media, causing drama and calling me names, not thinking what he was doing was not going to affect me in any way. She wrote about my weaknesses as a man on a public platform and shared with the whole world how much she regretted marrying a non-satisfying man like me. As much as those things bruised my man ego, but I didn't care much about any of them. After our divorce was finalized, I transferred her money just to appreciate her for the help she gave me and the work she did in the fast food business. No lies, she had done an amazing job. So I had to show her that I saw her hard work and I appreciated it. A few days later, she called me and asked why I had cut her off everything, including the fast food business. I then told her that the money I had given her would have been enough for her to start her own business and fix her life for the sake of her niece. I didn't hate her. Even now I do not hate her, but I do not want our paths to ever cross again. She had fooled me too much. Was I too ignorant to even notice or pay attention to anything? Was I trusting too much? Please advise me.